My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help people build intentional, significant legacies for themselves and their families by coaching them in real estate. Now today what we're going to be doing is giving you an overview of what is going on in the real estate market across the entire state of Alaska. So we're going to be doing that in just a second though. If you haven't done so already, make sure that you do give this video a like, make sure that you do subscribe, and if you have any questions, make sure you post those in the comments section down below. Now without further ado, let's jump into it. Now the first thing that we want to look at is the total number of homes that are going to be on the market. Now keep in mind this is across the entire state, so South Central, Fairbanks, North, South, East, the Bush, everywhere. This includes everything. Now number one is we see that over here there are roughly about 2,100 homes that are on the market. Over here, this is obviously from last year, and there's significantly more. Now, what this means is that we are seeing a much smaller amount of inventory than we usually have for this time of year. And this is going to be during the time period from about the beginning of October to the beginning of November up to the current time. So during this time period, we're having much less inventory than we have in the previous year. Now the second thing that we want to look at is the number of properties that are actually under contract during the time period from the beginning of October to the beginning of November. Now over here what we're seeing is that this year there's about 684 homes that are on the market. The same time last year though, about 511 homes were under contract during that time. So what this shows us over here is that we are seeing a significant increase in the number of properties that are going under contract. We'll talk more about why that likely is in the summary, but that's what we're seeing for the moment. The third thing that we want to look at is the pending ratio. In other words, for all the properties that are on the market, how many of them are pending? In other words, if we have 100 homes on the market, but 50 of them are already under contract, then realistically only 50 of them are available. So that's why the pending ratio is important. It's a good gauge for us to see what the demand is. If you have 5,000 homes on the market and you have only 25 more homes under contract than you did the year before, obviously it's not really a sign of a really quick, healthy market. So the pending ratio is important to kind of gauge the speed and overall health of the market. Now over here, what we're seeing is that this time last year, the pending ratio for overall for the entire state was roughly around 36%. This year though, we're seeing the pending ratio is closer to 57%. So over 20% jump in the pending ratio. So that's a really healthy indicator. We'll talk more about that again in the summary at the end here. Now the last thing that we want to look at is going to be the average sold price. Now I'm not always 100% on board with using the average sold price, especially if we're using it at such a macro level, looking at the houses in all the different price ranges across the entire state, but this is something that people do want to know, so we're going to dive into it. So what we're seeing is that the average sold price this time last year was right about $309,000 just overall, just as an average. Meanwhile over here what we're seeing is the average sold price this year about $352,000, just kind of rounding up or rounding to the closest. So that is a pretty significant swing in the direction for the value of homes just going up during that time frame just across the entire state as a whole. And a lot of that probably has to do with, well, you know what? We're going to wait to the summary to discuss that in more detail. So hang tight. Has this been useful for you so far? If it has, you know what to do. Make sure you give this video a like, and make sure that if you do have any questions, post those in the comments section down below, and be happy to answer those as best we can. Now, let's go and jump back into it. All right, the next thing that we're going to look at is going to be the multi-unit real estate market across the entire state. Now, this one has got a lot more variety in it, obviously, because we just have a whole bigger range of of properties that can qualify as multifamily, whereas obviously single-family residential, it's all going to be single-family residential. So there's going to be some more variety in there, but let's go and jump into this just to kind of show you what's going on in the multi-unit world, and it kind of is going to follow some of the same trends as the residential world. So let's go and jump into it though. The first thing that we're going to look at for the multi-unit properties is going to be the total number of active listings. This is important because those that are wanting to get into the multi-unit scene for investments, they are going to find that there are just going to be fewer options here, because we're seeing over here there were 421 multi-unit properties that were on the market this time period last year, from the beginning of October to the beginning of November. Over here, now we're seeing there's 363 multi-unit properties that are available on the market. So again, that's significant, because if you are wanting to get into the multi-unit scene, this just means that there are fewer options, and so that's obviously going to impact the supply and demand. The next thing we want to check out is the number of properties that are actually under contract for the multi-unit scene. Keep in mind, this is going to be a smaller number than what we're going to see in the residential side, and this is for the entire state. Now, last year, there were actually about 46 multi-unit properties that pended. This past year, or right this moment, there's 72 properties that actually pended. So even though the inventory has gotten compressed down for what's available, we are still seeing there's a high demand, and we'll talk about why that probably is at the end here. But what we do need to know for now is the number of properties under contract has definitely increased compared to the same time period last year. The next thing we want to check out is the pending ratio. We just can't get away from the pending ratio percentages, what we're seeing both on the residential and the multi-unit side, because over here we're seeing that this year there's about 57% of the homes that are on, or I'm sorry, the properties that are on the market are already pending. In other words, we might have 100 properties that are on the market, but 57 of them are already under contract, so they're technically not available. Down here, what we're seeing is last year only 36% of them were pending. So that's definitely is speaking to just how much demand that we have out there. Lastly, let's take a look at the average sold price for multi-unit properties overall for the entire state. Last year, this time period is around $403,000. This year, the average sold price is going to be about $428,000. Now, this metric is not quite as useful as what you might have even for residential. And keep in mind, I'm a little skeptical of even using average sold price for residential. And the reason it's even more tenuous when we're using it as a metric for multi-unit properties is because there's just such a range on exactly what is available and what they can sell for as a result. So that still is a pretty good metric though, and just shows kind of that overall trend that that we would expect to see. Less inventory, higher ratio, pending ratio, and that's going to mean that the prices will start going up as a result. So let's go and summarize all this real quick. The trends that we're seeing are going to be pretty similar, both for the residential side and for the multi-unit side. We're not really seeing a whole lot of differentiation between the two. First off, for both of them, inventory remains low. Even for new properties coming onto the market, we are seeing more properties coming onto the market, obviously, across the state, but it's just not keeping up with the demand. Pretty good indicator, some theories on why this is. A really good one is people are just wanting to take advantage of the really low interest rates right now, which, good on them, good on them. That actually can save you quite a bit of money in the long run, so make sure you take advantage of that. Secondly, what we're also seeing is prices are going up in just across the entire state here. So if you are out looking for homes, keep in mind what you would have paid for something, or where you might have been able to pay, you know, $420 or something like that for something a couple of years ago, well, now it's obviously going to be a little bit higher, and competition is going to be really fierce. So that's just something to keep in mind. On the multi-unit side, it's going to be pretty much the same thing. There's more variation, though, in the way things can kind of differentiate from the overall average, though. So if you are looking at selling or purchasing either something on the residential side or the multi-unit side, do make sure that you reach out to me, preferably directly on my phone number and website, which that's going to be in the description down below. You can also reach out to me through my Facebook page. Details for that is going to be down below as well. And if you do have any additional questions, make sure you put that in the comments section. And real quickly, if you are ready to start looking for homes in the area, make sure you check out the app that's going to be coming right after this, and that app is going to show you how to download it and how to start your search. So I sure hope this has been useful, and thanks for watching. Downloading my app is pretty simple. You simply scroll to the description section of my videos, click on the link there. It's going to take you to my website. From there, scroll down, hit download app. It'll take you to a place where you enter in your phone number. Enter that in, click send link. It's going to text you a link to the App Store. And from there, you'll have to click on that, enter in your email address, and then it's going to register you to the app, and you'll be able to start modifying your search. You can modify number of bedrooms, bathrooms, property type. You have a lot of modifications you can do on there, or just draw a shape to it. From there, you'll have the ability to go and just browse through, create your own specific saved searches on there that's going to make sense for you. Go ahead and add notes just so it makes sense. And that's going to be kind of the basic search capabilities. There are a lot of extra bonuses and things to this that make it really beneficial, like walking you through the entire process as a buyer or seller and giving you all the details that's involved with each one of those steps. So never at any point are you going to be lost in the process. So we've kind of just scratched the surface here, but that's just to get you started.